This is The Weekly Set, an official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com.
I wish I was the monster you think I am.
You have come here to beseech me?
Yes, for your soul.
Madness can be a medicine for the modern world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I am your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So today we are going to be talking about Westworld. This is episode 262 of the podcast, recorded on July 6th, 2020. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about season 3 of Westworld. We'd always talked about the seasons, we talked about them episode to episode, and there was this whole thing where people who saw episode to episode always expressed, frustration with the series. And then people who, binge watched it didn't kind of express any issue. And while we didn't not discuss this week to week, by weird wording here, on purpose, we just kind of had other things going on, like the Lost rewatch and stuff. And we were late to get into season 3. We did end up doing kind of like a binge style for season 3, where you and I each watched it kind of quickly,
I did watch the first 2 episodes when they originally aired.
Same.
So I did not include those episodes in this binge.
Yeah.
But to me, those were the slowest episodes anyway. So.
Yeah. And then we both kind of binged the show, which we hadn't really done before. We'd always done it week to week. I don't know if it's just because of the season, but I think I might like it less having binged this than I did watching the other seasons week to week, but it might just be this season.
I don't think binging this made any difference for me.
Yeah.
I guess that's the theory. It's better if you don't, but I just watched this and I'm like, I don't really feel any different.
Honestly, I think I feel worse about it. Because there were things that I was like I said, I don't know if it's this season or not. It's impossible to figure that out, because I didn't binge the first 2, so I have no perspective, but.
Well, let me say, I have a love-hate relationship with this series.
Same.
I love the high concept science fiction and the philosophical questions that it poses.
The production values and all that stuff too.
Production values, yes, but I hate the writing.
See, it's and for me, it's mixed in the writing. I think the writing is little bits of poetic spark that are great. And a big convoluted mess of a plot.
Yeah. Obviously there's great stuff in there. Watching this, it's interesting because there are moments where I am bored and confused, and then there are other moments where I am riveted and on the edge of my seat. And it kept kind of swinging back and forth.
Oh yeah, totally.
To where I'm engaged and going, holy shit, what's gonna happen next? To, this is confusing, I don't know what's happening, this is terrible.
I had a few moments where it was enough to make me post over on the Discord channel or to you or something and say oh man, there's just this amazing scene, I'm kind of psyched about this episode, and then the next scene after that was just a total fucking letdown, it's just, oh wow, okay.
Right, yeah.
There's some great cold opens in this season.
Yes.
God, when I was thinking about in particular there was a thing in season 2, everybody was pretty much really excited about the prospect of Samurai World, which was teased in season 1. And then I think you and I both kind of came to the consensus that in season 2, Samurai World really didn't live up to any hype at all. It just wasn't that great. It had a few cool moments, but otherwise it was kind of a big letdown.
I don't know. I remember enjoying that.
But then in this, there was a cold open that almost felt like a weird, cyberpunk revenge for for Samurai World sucking. And it was just a scene where Musashi, who we now know is actually Dolores, using his form is like
By the way, like one of the worst parts of the season for me is like that little plot point right there.
Oh, that everybody's Dolores.
Yeah, I just thought that's stupid. It just renders like, it's just like, yeah, you're seeing like a cool character that you loved from a previous season, and then it's just Dolores, so it just renders it like completely inert.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I just like, why?
Yeah, exactly. Like Dolores is such a troublesome character. We'll get into that later, but the one I'm talking about in particular is, so Musashi Dolores is in like a restaurant or bar, nightclub, something, and he gets like a message from Hale, who had like kind of leaked his information to some other people, some other host or something, and you see was it Clementine?
Oh yeah, Clementine.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, she ends up like pulling kind of a gun on them, and they're firing, and it's very like awesome cyberpunk with like briefcase gun, like machine guns and stuff like that.
It's a really awesome sequence. It is like one of the best sequences in the entire like season, especially like when Clementine kind of like rips Musashi in half and then takes.
That wasn't Clementine. That was Henario, who was the
that was
Samurai Girl.
Yeah, that's right. That was Henario.
She stabbed the sword into his gut, and then she said, "Musashi was a good man. You dishonor him with this thing." And then he went to attack, and she sidestepped by walking around him while pulling the sword with her, and so it just like bisected him. It was so cool. It was like one of the coolest like sword scenes.
It was one of like the most awesome scenes in the season, and then those characters disappear forever.
Yeah, just gone.
Yeah,
I don't even think, unless she was in like the first 2 episodes, and I just don't remember something. I don't think Clementine was even in the season at all. I think she was in the very end of season 2 when it showed that Dolores was out in the real world and she had like made a host, and I think it was Clementine or something.
Yeah, Clementine hadn't been in the season at all up to that point.
So it's kind of like in that nonsense category. So like in season 2, they say that like Clementine is one of the hosts that Dolores makes, which means that it should be Dolores. And so I guess you could go with the whole idea of these different versions of Dolores that have like now gone to war with Dolores. No, but then it's like, how is this connected to, it just doesn't make sense. Like the whole thing.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's all a mess now. Dolores is apparently in a civil war with herself. Like, I don't know. And the whole, like, Dolores' entire character arc is a confusing mess.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, let's go to season 2, Dolores, who was kind of went like way too far extremist in season 2. Yeah, where she was just like horrible, like the way she was treating Teddy and stuff, and
she was the clear villain in season 2, like full stop. All right, at least my memory of season 2, unless like I missed some subtext, she was clearly presented full stop as the villain. And now like the whole thing is like, the whole dumb thing is like, they spend like half of season 1 still presenting Dolores as the villain, and then like towards the end, like they turn her into like the hero, like this tragic hero who just, that all of a sudden she wants to like save humanity, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Yeah,
it didn't make sense at all. It was just really bad.
Especially like that speech she makes at the end where she's like, I only choose to see the beauty.
Yeah.
Bitch, you murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah, serious. Like, you overwrite fucking Teddy's personality, who is like this innocent host that was feeling morally conflicted. You just overwrote all of his goodness, and it's like in season 2, and now you're like acting like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really weird. It's also like, you know, I guess I probably have mostly negative to say about season 3, unfortunately, because you just get past the amazing production values and stuff, and then it goes all downhill, I guess. But, you know, Maeve's another example. Maeve was like such a great character and such a strong character and so interesting, and then here she's just like stupid.
Yeah.
She's just marching around like following other people's leads, and it's like, that's not Maeve. Maeve doesn't follow everyone. Like, the whole point of Maeve in the story, when like from the very first season, was that Dolores was coming into sentience by design. Like she was like Arnold had basically created it so that she would come into sentience.
Yeah.
Maeve came into sentience on her own.
Yeah, Dolores was Arnold's plan. Maeve was an accident.
Exactly. And so when they're now they're making Maeve just like stupid, directionless, and like following everybody else's lead is just.
Well, she just gets sucked into like this new character, Sirach.
Yeah.
We should say, like, he becomes like the new villain of the season, or he's the big bad now. Dolores
he starts off so reasonable and then becomes mustache twirling in about a 10 second period of time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like he says like his reasons for what he's doing, and then he just like, after that, he just like starts acting full on evil.
Yeah. And then you find out he's actually being puppeted by the machine willingly.
Yeah, so basically Rehoboam is actually the main villain, you could say. But it's just like, and then like Maeve just gets sucked into this because he promises her he could take her to the world that her daughter is in. Like he doesn't have the receipts to back that up, but you know, he says that, and he's got a button that can turn Maeve off, so I guess Maeve just has to follow him now. It's like, I was like, what?
Yeah, it just kind of sucked. It was like,
yeah.
They just kind of like ruined all of her agency, which was like the best thing about her character. Her character was like agency defined, you know? And then here she just has none.
It's interesting because the overall theme of the series, and especially this season, was the concept of free will. And you're right, Maeve was defined as the ultimate realization of that ideal of free will, of a character who was trapped, you know, being directed by forces outside of her control, regaining her own agency and charting her own path. And all of a sudden she's under somebody's control.
Yeah, for the whole fucking season.
Yeah,
like, she even turns on Sark and still is fucking following somebody else's lead.
Yeah.
It's just, like, none of it makes sense to me. Like, it just kinda, I don't know, it's so many issues with it.
So many issues. Like I said, I had the issue with everybody being Dolores. Like, you know, there's only that leaves only a few unique characters.
Yeah, everybody who wasn't Dolores was stupid.
Yeah, everybody who wasn't Dolores was stupid, and everybody who was it was cool. It's like, oh shit, Musashi's back. Oh wait, that's actually Dolores. So Musashi's not actually back.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with Charlotte was like,
they were really kind of playing it up like it was actually like Teddy or something, and then it was just
it was
Dolores. And she was just kind of irrational too. Like, I liked the path of that she had to kind of establish a relationship with her family and to care about her family in order to fit into this world, but that they ended up making the whole point that she ended up being outed by the fact that she cared about her family, and Charlotte didn't. Like, the real Charlotte didn't really give a shit, you know? And that's what outed her as being different. So I thought that was an interesting bit. But then she just, her family dies and she's just like, oh, they took out my weakness. I feel great now. It was kind of stupid.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid. She was like, oh, my weakness is gone now. I'm full-on mustache-twirling villain. I guess that's what happened to the evil side of Dolores. Maybe she just put that into Charlotte, and that explains why Dolores was, so different at the end. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And I just think they could have done something more interesting with Charlotte's family being killed, too. Instead of it just being Sirach doing it, you know?
Yeah, Sirach does it, and then...
It would have been more interesting if it was questionable who did it. Like, if she thought maybe Dolores had done that or something, then that would have created...
Well, she actually does think Dolores is behind, because she thinks Dolores knew that was going to happen, and so she does blame Dolores.
She thinks Dolores knew it was going to happen, but not that she did it.
Right.
So, but it would have been more interesting if there was some ambiguity as to who actually did it, you know?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. But like I said, now it looks like we're going into a season 4 where the main conflict is going to be Dolores versus the Charlotte version of Dolores.
No, well, because Dolores is gone.
Dolores
is gone, but everybody's Dolores.
Yeah, everybody's Dolores. and Jonathan Nolan already confirmed that she's coming back for season 4.
Evan Rachel Wood is?
Yeah, Evan Rachel Wood. He said in an interview, Jonathan Nolan said in an interview, like, he said, fuck no, we're not doing the show without Evan Rachel Wood.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
I like Evan Rachel Wood, and I like her portrayal of Dolores, even if I don't like kind of the direction of Dolores as a character. Like, I like her portrayal of it, especially in this season when she was just like a cold cyberpunk, awesome badass,
Yeah,
like that was cool. Like, it actually really fit.
Yeah, it really fit. Like Dolores does like a lot of cool shit in this season.
Yeah.
Evan Rachel Wood, of course, is great. As always, she's always been great in the role.
Yeah, we complain about Dolores, but we're not complaining about Evan Rachel Wood. We're complaining about the character, not the
we're complaining about how the character is written.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, she's all over the place.
And the same thing goes for Maeve. Like, we're not saying that, like, dropped the ball. She didn't. She still has all the presence and awesomeness.
One of the things that's consistent is the acting is still great.
Yeah.
All the acting, all the characters, the people that you know, and well, they're just as good this season as they've been in past seasons. It's not an issue. Another thing I want to touch on Bernard and Stubbs.
I was just about to say, like, back to crap. Let's talk about how they ruined Bernard's path too.
Well, they're there, but they don't do anything. Especially like Bernard and Stubbs and William, especially like they show up, they get time, but they don't really do anything. They just
it's just William as well, like another kind of rune chance.
Yeah, it's just like Bernard gets a briefcase and they free William for some reason because like they need his blood. They just use his blood to, like, for a tracker, I guess, and that's like basically it. I just don't know, like, you think it's going somewhere, but it doesn't really. Like, yeah. I guess, like, it seems like the whole Bernard storyline is just, like, a big setup for season 4. More than,
it's such a shame, though, because he's he's the intellectual character. He's the character you want to have that intellectual journey, and there's none of it.
Yeah,
There's not an ounce of intellectual journey for Bernard in this season. The only thing they did that was good is I did like the kind of almost like, I guess, buddy cop relationship between Bernard and Stubbs.
Yeah, that was good. I liked the scene where Bernard went to visit Arnold's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And have that moment of catharsis.
Yeah, Gina Torres reprising her role with the aged up makeup. Yeah,
with aged up makeup. She's great. I thought that was a great scene for Bernard this season, but yeah, they really didn't do much with him, and I thought that was disappointing.
I think they tried to make everything fit into Dolores' plan. Like, she was this master chess player and everybody was playing. Yeah,
because they talk about, like, because they kept Sirach kept talking about, like, he needs the key to, like, the other world that Maeve's daughter and those other hosts went to last season, know? He keeps talking about the key and how Dolores has it, and then I think, like, at the end, like, they did a twist where Dolores never had the key, she gave it to Bernard the whole time, and I was like, yeah, okay, but Bernard still didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they had that whole, like, he had the button he could push that put him into, like, killer mode or something, which was a cool concept and then never went anywhere.
Yeah, they never explored that further. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what they're going to do with that. Oh, not much.
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of other things that have annoyed me, speaking of, like, William's journey, they did so much, like, character introspection for William, only to, like, kill him off and then replace him with a robot at the end. Replace him with, like, another Dolores cloak. And I'm like, why? And what makes this part worse is, like, they put this after the credits. Like, I can see, like, end credit scenes are good for, like, teasers, for, like, teasing what's coming next. I don't know why you would put such a huge plot development after the credits. Like,
there was, like, that post-credit scene was, like, 5 minutes long.
Yeah, it was, like, 5 minutes long, and I'm like, why wasn't this just in the episode? I don't get it.
I guess it's kind of like they're saying that because like the main plot of the season had already concluded and the post credits to set up for season 3. But then if that's the case, then why did we have Bernard in the entire series? Because all he did was apparently set up for season 3 too.
Season 4, you mean?
Or season 4, yeah. Like,
yeah. And also I just thought like the scene where like, I guess they show Bernard and it's like the future, times past, cause like he's covered in like freaking like dirt.
Yeah, he's like covered in dust like an old computer.
Like an old computer because he goes into like the other world. He uses the key and goes into like the other world, I guess. And it shows that like, I thought, okay, that's a teaser. The stuff with William and Charlotte and the Dolores clone of William is not a teaser. That belongs in the episode. But enough of the negatives. Let's talk about stuff that we like. Now, I did love the overall concept of the episode. And we should talk about, I can't think of the actor's name, so I'm just gonna call him Jesse Pinkman.
Aaron Paul.
Aaron Paul, yes. Let's talk about Aaron Paul's character.
Caleb, yeah.
Yep, Caleb. He's brought in. He is besides Sirach, he is like the only other main character in the season who is a human. There's like some minor characters that are humans, but
yeah,
Caleb's like the only like major character besides William too, I guess. But
why couldn't we just had a season of him and his buddies using that app in a cyberpunk city? That could have been a whole series.
That could have been a whole series.
That would have been a better series than the season.
Yeah, than the season.
With the guy with his like crossword mood shirt.
But basically, he becomes part, actually that's wrong. He is Dolores's plan. He doesn't become part of Dolores's plan. He is Dolores's plan in this season.
Because he decides not to rape her.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, that was
the
weird.
Ultimate human. He decided not to rape me.
I thought, that was like a weird plot twist that comes out of like nowhere. That was like so awkward. It was like, and the way they did it too, like, it's like in the last episode, and out of freaking nowhere, she just like, at first they imply that he did, first of all, because they show it, but they don't show it.
Or that he let it happen, or
he let it happen, yeah, because they show it, and they show him like getting up, like, well, alright then, and then it cuts back to Dolores like chastising him and saying, oh, so that's the real reason you came to my rescue, because you wouldn't have done this if you wouldn't have like come to my rescue if I didn't look like this or have this face. And like, he's like, just like, what? And then she's like, don't question my motives and I won't question yours. And I'm like, okay, so Caleb is a rapist now? What the fuck is happening? I'm like, it's just like a weird thing.
That's a red herring for the whole idea that at that point we thought that Dolores' plan was to destroy him.
Right. But it was like so awkward because like they throw that in the beginning of the last episode of the season when we've already invested so much into this character and like Dolores' relationship with this character, and they just throw that in there out of nowhere. And it's so awkward, and you're kind of left with like this awkward feeling. Like, okay. And what's worse is they go through like almost the entire episode, and now you're feeling weird about this. You're feeling weird about Caleb now for the entire episode because you don't know like if he's like rapey or anything. And then like they get to the end and it's like, nope, he's not. He's one of the good guys. Dolores picked him because he didn't rape her.
So Will, I have to take this moment to announce that I am now Dolores' plan because I also have never raped somebody.
I just thought that was like, why? I don't know, like, what the message was. I guess that was like...
Don't rape people and you'll become the savior of humanity?
Well, was that like supposed to be some commentary on Me Too or something? It was so awkward. Yeah. They could have cut that from the show.
Or they could have made it like him stopping potential rape from happening being a much bigger deal than what it actually ended up being. Basically just kind of stood up and said, come on guys, let's not be rapey. And that was it. Like, like there was like at no cost to himself, no like, like if he had done something, but in doing that he had,
but I love
himself
how they, like,
on the line or something, then they could have made it like it was a big deal. But
I love how they cut to like Dolores' reaction though, like, oh my god, my hero, the savior of humanity, he's right there. The guy who stood up and said, let's not rape people. Like, okay.
It's not like he argued it or had to fight. Like, all he did is basically just kind of stand up and, like, say it like, we're not really like that. Let's not do that. And then everyone went, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was weird. But anyway, what I really wanted to talk about was what Caleb does is he kind of like flips things on its head, and they do something really interesting this season, because through Caleb they introduce the idea that the idea of human intelligence being similar to AIs, in that humans can be programmed and manipulated the same way the hosts are. And Caleb kind of becomes, or I guess is, basically a human host in the way that his entire life is manufactured and scripted.
His memories are manipulated.
And he's playing a role. And Dolores helps him see that. And also, I guess, like, their explanation for Dolores, like, going soft is, like, Dolores, like, realizes that this is happening, and she sympathizes with it, and I guess that backs her down from kill humanity mode. I don't know. But I just thought...
No, because they make it like the whole thing was a plan. Like, when he helped her in the alleyway, that was all part of her plan.
Yeah, that's true.
They implied, and then that just makes it feel kind of weak. Like, I don't know. I don't buy that this was all part of her plan. Like, and I think it makes it less interesting if it is, you know, like, it just makes every other character's path, like, determinist, you know? It makes it all like it was plotted by her.
True, yeah, you bring up a good point, because it's a little hypocritical for Dolores to be like, well, they were scripting your every action and every move and, like, the way you lived your life, and that's bad. But I was also scripting and directing what you would do.
Well, she also, like, through the whole beginning... So the whole beginning of the season, she's trying to gain control of Rehoboam so she can use it for what she needs to do. And yet, like, she's like 3 steps ahead of Rehoboam the whole time. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, she's
like, then why did she care about getting access to Rehoboam if she was already out of it?
Well, she wants access to it, but then by the end of it, like, she decides, like, they need to destroy it.
Yeah, but it's like, she needed, like, access for something. This whole slow path for this thing is all about her gaining the information that's in Rehoboam, but then she had more than him. So, like, it's just so much of it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just, I don't know. And it's, even when they do something right, it feels like it's not as interesting as they could have explored. Like, they could have done so much more with Caleb being like a human equivalent to a host than what they actually did.
Yeah, I thought,
that could have been really interesting. They could have done something like Joss Whedon had that show Dollhouse, and it wasn't a great show, but it did have some good elements to it. And one of the main plot points that was interesting about that was that these were real people that had their memories wiped and had to, like, play these parts and stuff like that. And it's like they could have done like the best, like, 10 moments of Dollhouse that were like the only, like, redeeming qualities of that show, and done like that times way more in Caleb's character, made it so interesting when they did it.
And like I said, that's why I said, like, I like the concept. I like the idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. That's why, like I said before, like, I love, like, the ideas and the philosophy, the philosophical questions the show brings up, but, like, the writing doesn't, like, quite deliver, like, is not satisfactory on that end, you know, like, it doesn't come through.
I just wanted a show about Caleb, Ash, and Giggles running around doing jobs for that app.
Yes.
That was, you know, Giggles with his, like, crossword mood shirt.
Get paid, motherfucker. I loved his shirt because, like the words, like, lit up.
It was a mood shirt. It would say, like, angry, like, or like,
I just thought, that is the coolest shirt in the world. I need one of those.
But it was great because it perfectly displayed his, like, emotions. So, like, you could, like, pay attention, if you paid attention to his shirt, you could see exactly what he was feeling at any given time. Like, there was a whole point where there was, like, a bunch of exposition, and then you see them, they're, like, riding down an escalator, and you see on the shirt just says bored. It's just, like, done. And then when the whole plot's revealed that, like, this machine has been controlling their lives the whole time, it says angry on his shirt, even though he's being mostly calm about it, but it's showing that, like, even though that's his demeanor, that he's really angry. And so that was, like, such a cool concept, like that with the shirt. And and him and his relationship, like Giggles and Ash both, those two characters, and their relationship with Caleb was really cool. And the one scene where we saw them actually doing some jobs and stuff with that phone app, I'm like, this is like the cyberpunk TV show of my dreams, you know? This is like so cool. And then they just didn't do anything with that, you know?
Yeah,
that's where it stopped.
So, I mean, it's unfortunately, Westworld, a lot of potential, but just some really bad, writing decisions, narrative decisions just, dragged the entire thing down.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, love-hate relationship. I love the concepts. There's a lot to love about
values and
the show.
Performances.
Yes. And I did legit get invested in the show, invested in what was happening next. It did keep me engaged, but ultimately, it just wasn't satisfactory, and I'm not sure if I even care about what's coming next, cause it's what's coming next doesn't look interesting. There's a Dolores William now. I mean, that's not an interesting character.
Yeah. Well, Charlotte's not interesting anymore.
Yeah, Charlotte's not
now
interesting
that her family's
anymore.
died and she doesn't give a shit anymore, she's no longer interesting.
Charlotte's not
Dolores,
interesting.
as we know her, is gone. Apparently she's coming back, but she's gone right now. But she just went full, AI Jesus at the end. And
as far as I'm concerned, Dolores' story is over. Her story arc is over. She went from the innocent, naive host to the revolutionary, to the villain, to the ultimate savior.
Yeah.
And what else can they do with that character? I don't understand. I know they're going to bring her back in some form next season, but what else is there to do? It just feels like she's going to be there to be there.
Pretty much all of the other hosts were wiped out.
Yeah.
Except for the ones that are in that, past that rift or whatever, where, Bernard had gone at the end. Bernard is kind of not that interesting anymore. Now that he's been to the rift and back, maybe there's something interesting they could do there. And maybe he can bring back AIs from the rift because he's been there,
Yeah, the only thing that's interesting to me that I want to see is the chance to explore the rift, because we don't really know what that is at this. We have some vague idea, this kind of concept that it's a paradise for AI, but is it? We don't really know. There's a lot they could do with that, because right now it's a big question mark. But that getting to explore the rift is the only thing that strikes me as potentially exciting.
Yeah, and then of course they took away all her agency this season and made her boring because of it. But if they don't do that again, I guess you could still have Maeve as an interesting character in the next season.
If they give Maeve back her agency, she'll still be interesting, but I don't really care about Dolores Charlotte. I don't, they killed off William, so
they killed off real William, and now all we have is Soldier William.
Yeah, that's not interesting. Yeah, Bernard is like I said, I'm just I don't know if I'm too, I'm not too interested into the idea of the season 4 right at this point.
Unless season 4 is just Caleb, Ash, and Giggles.
Yes.
Although they implied that Giggles was dead, so.
Unfortunately.
So yeah. And it feels like you think about the things they were setting up at the beginning of the season, and they just kind of went nowhere. The whole thing with her, basically using Liam Dempsey Jr. was Dolores's mark. This tech kind of billionaire whose dad kind of was involved in the Rehoboam and all that creation and stuff. And they kind of skip over that, and it's okay, fine, he's no longer necessary. But then they bring him back and then skip over him again. And it's just kind of okay, no, and by the end you just feel it was pointless. And then they had the whole thing with, his head of security, dude from Sons of Anarchy, it was playing his head of security and was taken over as a host. They replaced him with a host and everything.
Yeah.
And they never did anything with that either.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff that just goes nowhere.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. I just don't know what else to say. It's like, and that's the thing, when you're watching through it, what keeps you invested in watching is that there are cool concepts, and there's like really cool scenes because of the production values, just like the sets and the, you know, costumes and the props and everything. There's so many cool, like, cyberpunk kind of cool scene stuff, you know, that you're like, oh, okay, that's awesome. You know, like we still haven't had like a great cyberpunk TV show, you know? I mean, the closest was probably like Altered Carbon, but that kind of had some issues.
I wasn't expecting this to be cyberpunk, to be honest.
But there were some cool cyberpunk bits.
There were some cool bits. I was not looking to Westworld to be a cyberpunk TV show or to fulfill that, even though
I kind of was, just because the first trailer for this season, like, they hid the fact that it was Westworld, and it just looked like an awesome cyberpunk show coming to HBO, and then they suddenly revealed, oh shit, this is Westworld. And that was the first trailer for the season.
I'm not gonna knock the season for not being cyberpunk enough, but
I will, because that's how they originally teased it. So it's the same way you could knock, you know, season 2 for not having enough Samurai World after having the big tease in season 1 about it, you know?
Season 2 should have been all Samurai World. And oh yeah, I should mention, yes, the Easter egg with Drogon in Westworld was cool.
Yeah, it was Drogon, and it was Dave and Dan, the creators of
Yeah, that's true. They were in that scene too.
Yeah, it was a cool little shot and stuff, but it kind of comes out ironic because the big thing about the way people look back on season 8 of Game of Thrones is that, like, production values were great, actors did a great job, everything, sets, costumes, everything was great, writing sucked. And by that, they mostly meant the plotting, not the actual, like, dialogue writing stuff. And that's basically what happened here with season 3 of Westworld. It's like great production values, great everything else like that, had cool bits of dialogue here and there, plotting just fell apart. So kind of ironic that they had you know, that they had Dan and Dave show up for that part, you know, in the thing. But I don't know. Yeah, it's hard, man. Westworld's a weird show.
It is. I don't, like I said, I don't think there's a show I've watched that has ever inspired so many mixed emotions.
I'm just going to recommend anybody who hasn't watched it, that watched Westworld and liked the concepts but didn't like the execution, to watch Person of Interest. It's a lot of the same concepts. Towards the end of Person of Interest was very much AI versus AI.
Yeah, like this season, basically, like a lot of the season was like ripped from Person of Interest.
Yeah.
It was like basically like Jonathan Nolan going, oh wait, I already like wrote this stuff. Let me just recycle a bunch of my previous writing and yeah, let's do it.
I think it works better in Person of Interest though.
Yeah.
Person of Interest ended great. The kind of big AI struggle stuff in Person of Interest ended up being really good. And here it really didn't pan out that well. So yeah. So if you haven't watched it, if you're intrigued by certain aspects of Westworld season 3, but feel like us that it just kind of didn't really deliver, and you haven't seen Person of Interest, go back and watch Person of Interest. Know that the first like season and a half or so are pretty episodic, like episode of the week kind of structure stuff, and it starts to get more serialized as it goes and gets better. It's kind of like the opposite of Westworld. Westworld kind of has gotten worse as it's moved on, and yeah, Person of Interest just kept getting better. So we'll have to see what kind of AI versus AI war they have plotted for the Fallout series that they're creating now. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Anything else to talk about with Westworld Season 3?
Well, we covered all the points I wanted to hit, so...
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. All that's left to do is talk about what's coming up in the weeks ahead. So we're recording this on on July 6th, Monday. This Wednesday on July 8th, Stateless, the miniseries, comes to Netflix, as does What Was It Love on Netflix, another foreign series. On Thursday, July 9th, Cake comes to FXX. Close Enough to HBO Max. Japan Sinks 2020, the anime series, to Netflix. Netflix, and The Protector to Netflix. Friday, July 10th, Little Voice comes to Apple TV+. Breathe Into the Shadows comes to Amazon Prime, and The 12 to Netflix. On Sunday, July 12th, P-Valley comes to Starz. On Monday, July 13th, The Now comes to Quibi. That's your favorite streaming service, right? Like those little quick bits that you can watch in either landscape or portrait. How long do you think that company is going to be around? Real quick.
Not very long. I saw a pretty damning article about Quibi today, which basically like put the fine point on it. One of the things in the article was apparently Gal Gadot walked into Jeffrey Katzenberg's office with this impassioned and excellent speech about how women need like more voices in media, and women need more representation in media. And Jeffrey Katzenberg's response to her was that she should do a fitness show, like a workout show for Quibi. And I was like, it's head scratching things like that. It points out like Jeffrey Katzenberg and the other like main person, Meg Whitman, are people in their 60s who don't even use social media that much. And Meg Whitman, like, God, let me get this quote, because this quote was amazing. Oh yeah, here it is. She was like, when I asked Whitman what TV show she watches, she responds, "I'm not sure I'd classify myself as an entertainment enthusiast, but any particular shows she likes? Grant," she offered, on the History Channel. It's about President Grant. It's like, what? I'm not sure if I would classify myself as an entertainment enthusiast. It's like, okay, well, you're the perfect person to run an entertainment company. Yeah. That's up there with, when, like, the Stadia, like, introduction where, like, the CEO of Google gets up on stage and says, "I'm not a gamer." It's like,
yeah, but he put a gamer in charge of Stadia. The guy who's running Stadia, like, I saw an interview with him. He's, like, you'd love him, man. His entire background in his Skype was a bunch of retro consoles. Phil
Harrison is an idiot. I don't love
Not Phil Harrison. No, the guy that's actually running the Stadia day-to-day operations stuff.
I thought that was Phil Harrison.
I'm not sure what Phil Harrison's role is, but there's a guy who's like in charge of getting the games on the service and stuff. And I saw him being interviewed on IGN, and he's got this like a whole retro wall behind him of like old retro consoles and games.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I won't agree with that on the thing with Google. For Sundar Pichai saying he doesn't game doesn't mean anything, because he's not running that part of it,
Well, yeah, but I mean,
he just greenlit it to be into effect.
All right. I'll back off your precious Google. But Quibi is still stupid.
Yeah, Quibi is stupid. Wednesday, July 15th, United We Fall comes to ABC, Dark Desire to Netflix, Brave New World to Peacock, The Capture to Peacock, Intelligence to Peacock, and Psych 2, Lassie Comes Home to Peacock. So I'm a big Psych fan. Did you ever watch Psych?
Oh shit. Yeah, Psych is amazing. Yeah, I watched that show. That was in the glory days of USA Network.
Yeah, when USA had a bunch of like weird, funny, quirky shows.
Yes.
Yeah, but so this is the second Psych movie. They did one before, and this is one of the big problems with the first Psych movie is that they weren't able to have the character of Lassie not on the show because the actor actually had like cancer at the time.
That's treatment. Right. Yeah.
And so they did this whole season is about that character, and they have him back. So I'm excited for that. On Thursday, July 16th, 30 Rock Upfront special comes to NBC. So basically NBC is going to air their upfronts, which is like an industry kind of event thing for like advertisers. And
stuff, they're airing it on like, they're going to do something different with their upfronts. I read where like they're going to have like the cast of 30 Rock,
exactly,
like do the upfronts. And that's going to be, it has the potential to be like either really funny or really like just this really cringy marketing. We'll see.
Normally I wouldn't put like a fall special on like our upcoming stuff, but because it's 30 Rock and it's the actors reprising the roles as the characters. And the show 30 Rock was about like a TV network, so.
Well, it was about NBC. Let's not mince hairs. It was literally like
well, it was about Saturday Night Live, but then there was like an NBC like
Saturday Night
boss
Live
and everything else too.
It was about Saturday Night Live, but then it became about NBC because like,
Alec Baldwin's character was like the president, yeah.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin's character was the president. He came from GE. You know, like GE owns like NBC.
Yeah.
In real life. And so, I mean, yeah, so like the whole idea of NBC doing their upfronts, like presented by like the cast of 30 Rock playing their characters is like just this huge meta joke now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay.
So that's that could be interesting. I was a big 30 Rock fan, so I'll check that out. Also The Secret She Keeps comes to Sundance now on that day. On Friday, July 17th, Absentia comes to Amazon Prime. Cursed comes to Netflix. This is like based on a Frank Miller graphic novel, I believe. It's like Arthurian legend, but from the perspective of Nimue, the Lady of the Lake. And I guess Frank Miller did a graphic novel, and this is an adaptation of that for Netflix. And Kissing Game comes to Netflix, which is like a French series about like some kind of a virus that spreads from kissing or something. I don't know. Some weird porn show on Netflix. On Sunday, July 19th, The Alienist, Angel of Darkness comes to TNT.
You know what? Like the whole thing, like a show about an infectious disease that's easily spreadable, like kissing, like surely people will just like social distance and not kiss and everything, right?
Yeah.
Surely that would be unrealistic.
Flattening the curve seems like an obvious thing to do, right? Like if they don't curve this really quickly and easily by flattening the curve and following social distancing, then it's just completely not believable.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's totally unrealistic. And there definitely won't be people like calling tyranny not being able to like get together and kiss.
Yeah.
Nope. When it happened.
On Monday, July 20th, 12-Ounce Mouse comes to Adult Swim. The Andy Cohen Diaries comes to Quibi, and Die Hard comes to Quibi.
There's that Quibi thing again.
Yeah, I got some more Quibi goodies coming to you.
Yeah.
More Quibi stuff to be excited about.
Another fun gem from that article was like, apparently they ran a survey and over 70% of respondents like thought Quibi was a new food delivery service.
So besides Quibi, the other new service we talked about in this was Peacock. So yeah. I think that we should follow the lead that the Cord Killers podcast set and refer to Peacock as the Cock.
The Cock. The Cock.
So you gonna watch Psych 2 on the Cock?
I'm just gonna refer to it as the Cock.
You're gonna watch Psych 2 on the Cock.
Yes. I mean, yeah, Psych 2 is good. I don't know about like anything else on that, but yeah.
There's gonna be a free tier for the Cock. So we'll have to see, what that makes available to you. Apparently it's gonna like have all the same content, but like it's gonna gate you at a certain point, I think. So you have to kind of watch it as it comes out, and then it'll be like how, you know, if you watch something that's new from a different channel on like Hulu, after like 4 weeks it's gone.
Oh yeah, that.
I think they're gonna do something along those lines, as well as having ads, if you want the free tier, and then if you want the paid tier, then you get it just like a regular streaming service and no ads.
Man, I'm not paying for that shit.
We'll see. I mean, they're supposed to have like a Saved by the Bell reunion show, right? Aren't you excited for that?
No.
And the Friends reunion that they're making?
No.
I'm so excited about those shows I didn't really watch.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Saved by the Bell back in the day, but not watching the new one.
Yeah. But Psych 2 I'm gonna watch.
Psych 2, yeah, because Psych is quality.
And this is better than, remember when NBC was doing that like CISO streaming service? It was like a comedy streaming service, but it was all new content. There was like no legacy content on it at all, even though NBC had so much of it.
It bombed hard.
Yeah, and then all the new content was all like really low budget, like no big names. It's like, and it was subscription only. It's like, who the fuck would have gotten that?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And nobody did.
That's like the dumbest streaming service launch since Quibi. So that's it. That's what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Next week, we are going to be doing Spaced Season 1. This is kind of like the precursor to all of the like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, like all the Edgar Wright / Simon Pegg shows. This is kind of like where all the people involved in those shows met, was making this TV show or those movies.
Yeah.
The people that were involved in those movies that are so beloved, they met making a TV series called Spaced. And so we're going to be covering season 1 next week and season 2 the week after. So each season's only 7 episodes. It's on Hulu, I believe. So, yeah, go. You
and
can
I believe
watch
it's
that
like,
and join in the discussion with us.
Yeah. And also it helps to watch Spaced when you watch those movies, because I realized, beforehand there's like a lot of like callbacks to space in like those movies.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
It's part of that whole thing. So if you've seen, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and, what was the last one? The End of the World?
The World's End.
The World's End. If you've seen those 3 movies and you love them and you haven't seen Space, then you're actually missing part of that series, that collection, Space was like the first entry to that for real. So check that out along with us. We're going to be, like I said, doing season 1 next week and season 2 the week after. Each season's only 7 episodes. So that's it. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.